Bach was born in 1685, and in Germany. I think he was born in Leipzig. I'm not sure. In fact, probably not. Probably wasn't born in Leipzig, but he did live in Leipzig, and he taught there. And Leipzig is the capital of Saxony in Germany, and he worked as organist in the Thomaskirche. There he taught, and he wrote a cantata a week for the church. There he's had a wide influence on the history of Western music, and he's written lots of things, 2 and 3 part inventions, symphonias, preludes and fugues, concerti for harpsichord, masses, passions. He also apparently did a bit of lightweight music called the Cafe Quartet or something, the Cafe Cantata or something about a cafe, like an Austrian cafe light piece, which I have difficulty believing he would do, but it seems that he did write that piece, even though he has been quoted as saying that everything that he wrote was for God. I would have difficulty seeing how this cafe piece of music would have been for God, but I'll leave that to the experts. So he had lots of children. I think he had 22 children, and many of whom died in childbirth or at a young age. The Bible in Revelation chapter 7 says that they will be in heaven. They are part of the great multitude, for sure. And he had the famous children he had were C.P.E. Bach and Wilhelm Bach, and who else? J.C. Bach. Now we're going to go on to Beethoven. Beethoven was born in 1770 in Bonn, in Germany. He was the son of a of a singer anyway in I think the court of the emperor, if I'm not mistaken. He was a baritone, and he was a child prodigy like Bach had been, I assume. J.S. Bach had been. He revolutionized music in many ways. He was taught a little bit by Haydn, and so that and Haydn was taught by the lineage from Haydn goes back to somebody called Prospero, I think. Prospero. Someone I can't remember the surname, but it's Prospero someone or other. Anyway, he wrote symphonies and quartets which were so inventive and revolutionary that them, together with his piano work, which were also revolutionary, place him above Bach in the pantheon of composers. In terms of the originality of his writing and the revolutionary, sort of groundbreaking rather, nature of what he wrote in symphonic writing and his quartets and so forth, and his sonatas and his piano works, piano concerti, etc., etc. He is the greatest of all composers, and that was the beginning of the Pathetique Sonata, which would have revolutionised, as I think every sonata he wrote did, in many ways, revolutionised the piano literature. Up to then. So, after Beethoven, we come to Schubert, who was greatly influenced by Beethoven. They apparently never met, but I'm sure that they did meet, but there's no record of them having met. They both actually had the same teacher in Salieri, as a vocal teacher. They would have met in Vienna, I'm sure. Apart from anything else, they both used the same publishing company, and it just so happens that Schubert's Opus 53, which is, I think that's his Gasteiner Sonata. That was his Opus 53, and he published it in a publication, which then Beethoven published a quartet in. I can't remember which quartet. Maybe it was one of his late quartets. Anyway, I think something around number 15 or so. So Beethoven would have most probably known, at least through that publishing house, that they had already published Schubert, and he would have seen, I see it's a piano sonata, and it's Opus 53, and it's very similar to my Waldstein, my first movement. It is sort of, it's a virtuosic piece. And then, of course, the violinist called Schuppanzig played both Beethoven's works and Schubert's works, so he would have also been a link between the two. They would have certainly have met. There's the Schuppanzig link, there's the Salieri link, and there's the publishing house link. Then there's the music journals, such as the Allgemeine Geschichte, something or other, Zeit or something or other, which wrote articles on their music. I think certainly wrote music about Schubert's sonatas. Beethoven would have read them, the first three sonatas, in which someone compared Schubert's sonatas favourably to Beethoven, saying Beethoven's were the only sonatas with which Schubert's new sonatas could be compared. I mean, I think that was certainly about the sonata in G major, which he wrote, the sort of third of that first group of three. He only published 6 sonatas. All the rest of his sonatas that we know are all fragments. He never meant them to be published, not even his very famous small A major sonata, in 3 movements, and all of his other sonatas in 4 movements. Maybe he hadn't finished that sonata in 3 movements, although it sounds very finished, the last movement. A beautiful sonata. So I'll just play a bit of Schubert. He's of course famous for his songs. He wrote 2 famous song cycles, the Schönmüller and Winterreise. So this is not part of a song cycle, but it's his famous song Du bist die Ruhe, you are peace. Okay, but I won't sing it. And of course he's famous for for his impromptus very much. They're very famous. And his smaller works, they're more famous, I think, than his sonatas, or his last 3 sonatas are very famous for obvious reasons. They're great works, longer than I think any of Beethoven's. Yeah. Each one of those sonatas. So he was certainly trying to outdo Beethoven in a sense, in certain terms of length, and symphonies were longer than his, I think, and his sonatas were longer, the last 3 anyway, and the trio was longer than the Archduke trio, the number 1 and number 2, so number 2, and he seemed to want to outdo Beethoven. He quotes Beethoven, his 9th Symphony. He quotes Beethoven's 9th Symphony. So then I wanted to move on to Chopin, and Chopin was born in Zwickau. No, that was Schumann was born in Zwickau. So Chopin was born in Poland, anyway, near Warsaw. That's it, near Warsaw, to a French father and a Polish mother. And he wrote a lot of poetry at a young age, but then he went into piano, began to learn piano, and he wrote his first and second piano concerti before the age of 20, I think. Maybe it was 19 and 20 or so. Both colossal masterpieces. I would, he's famous for he only wrote for piano. He wrote a cello sonata, but it was cello and piano. He wrote songs, but everything had a piano. So I think the Mazurka in A minor is beautiful. I'll just play a little bit of that. Or a prelude. So forth. He didn't write it like that, actually. That was an arpeggio which he has not written in the music. So he was great for piano. And I should have said that I think music went from the classical to romantic around about Schubert. So Schubert was the first properly romantic composer. Up until then, Beethoven was the crossover artist. Of course, Bach was late Baroque. I talked about Bach before. There's J.C. Bach as well, by the way, but I forgot to mention this. Johann Christoph Bach, and also Johann Christian Bach. They're the other famous Bach children. I think there's those ones that I mentioned. And then, and Chopin's famous was Nocturnes, of course, which he got off John Field, the Irish composer, but they're more inventive than John Field's. I mean, I quite like John Field's ones as well. But yeah, he wrote things which are very revolutionary for the piano, like Liszt did, and like Beethoven did, and Schubert did as well, but not as much. But it was mainly Beethoven was the inventor of things for the piano, and Chopin and Liszt as well. Okay, and then I wanted to talk about Rachmaninoff. So he was a student of Tchaikovsky. I mean, he wasn't a student. I think he just knew Tchaikovsky in the conservatoire. He was in Moscow conservatoire. And Rachmaninoff wrote many concerti, 4 concertos, or 5 if you include the Paganini variations, 24 preludes, all late romantic, and heavily chordal. I think that they were also quite inventive. He was quite inventive as well. So Prokofiev has been accused of taking a lot of his piano writing from Rachmaninoff. I don't quite see that link. For me, Prokofiev is very original. I don't see the link really between Rachmaninoff. But anyway, someone like Richter, Sviatoslav Richter, says that he took things from Rachmaninoff. Anyway, I don't see the link. But he's famous for his preludes and his heavy chords. So I just want to play some of his heavy chords from the 18th variation, the famous 18th variation of the Paganini variations. So that brings to a close this talk. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, leave your comments below, and although you can't actually because my comments are turned off, but you can always find a way to contact me. Okay, thank you very much.